Can we get started? Are you ready? Okay. Well, today is the fourth day of the summer school, so I hope that you have enjoyed the summer school, all the activities so far. And it's our really great pleasure that you are here. My name is Jalal Kazempour. I'm originally Iranian. I'm an assistant professor at DTU. I joined DTU as an assistant professor late 2016. And before that, I was still at DTU, but as a postdoc. And before that, I was a postdoc at Johns Hopkins. And before that, I got my PhD in Spain in University of Castilla-La Mancha. Well, all in electrical engineering. So today, I would like to talk a bit about market, optimization, equilibrium, deterministic market, stochastic market, and this kind of things. So it was so good that Pierre, before me, he talked about the basics of electricity markets. So he made the life much easier to me. So please feel free to interrupt me whenever you have any questions, but please at the same time manage the time and make sure that we will finish by 12:30. Yep. So let me first, before starting the talk, it's nice to have a recap of what we did in the previous days. So in the first day, if you remember, Miguel talked about OPF and then the unit commitment problem in two versions, DC and AC, and then he talked about stochastic optimization and robust optimization and their applications to OPF or unit commitment. So stochastic and robust. And of course, the much easier version without considering any uncertainty is the deterministic version, right? So it was a very nice introduction, and then Spears talked a lot about OPF, and then DC OPF and AC OPF, and he talked how AC OPF is non-convex and how we can do better job, how we can convexify the AC OPF, for example, using the STP. And then the day after, Daniel talked on distributionally robust, which is I would say the more advanced version of the robust optimization, that then you don't have only a single uncertainty set. You have uncertainty on your uncertainty set. So it's a really beautiful, I think, technique. And then Pascal again talked about the different versions of ACOPF, how we can, the different relaxations of the ACOPF, talking about second order cone programming. How we can relax ACOPF and to make it as SOCP problem in different versions, and then STP. And yesterday we talked about integrated energy markets, integrated energy systems. When we not only talk about the electricity, we also talk about heat market or heat system, I would say, and natural gas system. And today Pierre started talking about market and then a specific kind of market that we call it peer-to-peer market. So today, still, if I would like to just wrap up and tell the keywords, today I will talk about the market, electricity market, but in wholesale level, not in retail level, not in peer-to-peer level. So it's a wholesale market. So then I'll talk about the deterministic and stochastic market clearing. So I'll not talk about the robust electricity market clearing, but there are also many nice papers, many nice researchers about robust. And maybe distributionally robust market clearing could be also very nice future research work. But when we talk about the market, assuming that, okay, our market clearing, assume we are using a simple linearized version, a DC, and assume that our objective function is linear, we don't use a quadratic objective function representing the cost of the generators. How do you think the OPF problem is different than market clearing problem? From mathematical point of view, are they different or not? Any idea? So the question is the comparison of DC OPF and market clearing. Are they from mathematical point of view different or not? Dirk? Oh, that's my turn. Okay.
I'm not sure if one would consider the network topology and the market clearing.
Yes, when we clear the market, at least in US, we have the network constraints. In Europe, yeah, we have simplified version of, we call it zonal. So just we see the network capacity constraints between the countries, but still it's kind of a simplified version of the network. Another idea? Okay, I would say that, well, in US, when we talk about the market clearing, in the US markets, they solve a security constraint version of the unit commitment problem, but in a DC version. So the problem is mixed integer linear problem. So it's the same as unit commitment problem. But when we talk about the market outcomes are not only the quantities, also we talk about price. And the price is the dual variable of the power balance equalities. And if we have network, we may have one price per node if the system is congested, right? So, but Miguel told you that in the first day, in the unit commitment problem, if it's MILP, we can't trust dual variables, right? Then we need to fix binaries to the optimal values and then solve linear problem again. But then the prices are not supporting enough because the startup costs are not reflected anymore in the prices. So then it's another research area that I will not cover here in this talk. Then you need to uplift prices and to make sure that the generators, they can cover their startup costs by updated prices. But what we do in Europe, we don't solve unit commitment problem. We solve OPF problem, and we assume that the offers of the generators, they embody the unit commitment constraints of the generators. Okay? So in Europe, what we solve is OPF problem without unit commitment constraints. But then, it's complicated. We allow generators to offer based on the blocks. So the generators can say, okay, my block offer is that from hour, I don't know, 10 to 12 or 13, this is my block offer, so I would like to produce at any hour, I don't know, 10 megawatt or whatever, right, in a specific price. So instead of having a single dot saying that how much I would like to produce in a specific offer, in a specific price, so instead of that, in Europe, the generators can offer as the block bits, okay? But when we talk and compare the market with OPF or unit commitment, either in US or Europe, they are similar. But when we talk about the market, it's very important that we also check the prices, the market clearing prices, and to make sure that those prices are supporting, are efficient. And later in the talk, I'll explain what does it mean, what supporting price means. Okay? Any questions so far? Good. So this talk, I hope, will help you to, one of the assignments is about this talk, half of it, and the half of it is about imperfect competition that tomorrow Marianne will cover. So I hope that this talk can help you to solve that assignment if you would like to take that one. Okay. So what's happening in Denmark? I think most of the people before me, they talked. And you know that Denmark, many good things is happening right now in Denmark. So as you see, this is the wind penetration in the Denmark in terms of the average annual power consumption. So in 2005, it was about 19%. And right now in 2017, last year, it was almost 44%. And area, the wind power penetration in Denmark is increasing. And here, there is a very ambitious target. And the people, would like to reach 100% wind penetration in 2050. And the other nice thing is that last year in 2017, in 1,460 hours, mostly in the night hours, we had wind power excess. So wind power even was more than the demands. And interesting thing is that thanks to nice connections of Denmark, Danish power system to the neighboring countries, and most of the times we have no wind power curtailment. But when we talk about wind, of course, we should also think about the uncertainty, right? And higher wind power penetration means that we need stronger tools to be able to manage uncertainty. And of course, it means that we need more flexibility. We need more flexible resources in our power system to be able to to integrate more wind power facilities in our power system. So, in this talk, I will talk about electricity market, not about gas or heat, though I think they're very interested, but you heard yesterday about the multi-carrier or integrated energy systems. So, as Pierre mentioned, so the goal of electricity market is an optimization problem per se. So, we are trying to meet the demand and productions at the maximum social welfare, or if the demands are inelastic, at the minimum production cost, right? But if we have a significant penetration of the renewables, then at the same time, if we had an accurate forecast, it's not necessarily good for the system adding more wind power penetration, because if we have very bad forecast, for example, in the day-ahead stage, so we may have wrong commitment decisions, wrong dispatch decisions in the day-ahead stage, and eventually it means that in the real time we need to do a lot of balancing actions, and finally we will see that, oh, the system cost is increased, though we are having more wind power, right? So it's very important that we should be very careful how we can handle wind power uncertainty and how we can integrate it in our electricity market tools. Yeah, there, you have the mic.
I see that this flexibility is quite an important issue to think about. Will you also talk about another maybe fundamental issue that could be that if we bid based on the marginal cost and we have a 100% renewable system, then the marginal cost will always be zero, say,
yeah.
So we won't make any money. And
yeah,
then
that's true, but it's other story when we, yeah. So here, I'll not cover talking about 100% renewables, which ends up to the zero marginal cost eventually. That's very interesting, but it's not the goal of this talk, actually. So here we assume that, well, we have the penetration of, I don't know, 40, 50, 60%, but at the same time, we need to have flexible resources like gas-fired producers or something like that. But yes, of course, in that, when we have 100% renewables, then we should ask wind producers itself to provide us flexibility, right? Which is also a very nice research story, I like. And Pierre, I think in the introduction, the first day, he mentioned that, okay, also some of the projects that we are running here at D2 is that how we can get flexibility ancillary services from wind power producers themselves, okay? So when we talk about the renewables, okay, we need to have more flexibility in the system. We need to integrate more flexible resources. I don't know, like demand response resources, like what we are doing in the Bornholm, Pierre mentioned you, under the context of the EcoGrid project. Or we need to have more fast generators, we need more hydro, we need more, thanks to Norway. Or we need more gas-fired generators. We need to better interconnect to the neighboring countries, thanks to the HVDCs. So we need to also have the physical flexible resource. But at the same time, we also need to have proper market design. If we have many, good flexible resources, but not have a nice proper softwares, the tools, the market tools, then perhaps we are not very optimal, right? So we need both at the same time. So this talk here, in the next 1 hour and 15 minutes, I'll try to answer two questions or address two questions. First is that what is the cost of wind power uncertainty in terms of the system cost, the system production cost? How can we monetize it? And what's the value of each flexible resource? How we can monetize the value of the flexibility? But the second important question is that, well, here, and also other schools, You heard a lot about deterministic market clearing, stochastic market clearing. But the question is that, like in Denmark, if we have a huge wind power penetration, do we really need to go towards stochastic market clearing or robust market clearing? Or not? We can stick in the current practice, which is the deterministic market clearing, but making it better. Is it possible or not? We are trying to address those kind of questions. It's very important questions for market operators. What should they do?
A small question.
Do you need mic?
Here you are mentioning about value of flexibility.
Yep.
That value is during the presence of the wind integration, or
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Are you considering other flexibilities like?
We assume that in the existing setup we have, I don't know, 40% wind power penetration. If we add 1 unit flexible resource, how much we can reduce the system cost. And that reduction shows the monetized value of the flexible resource. Okay? Thanks for question, clarifying question. Good. So my setup here is assume two-stage settlement, day ahead and real time, or balancing, or regulation setup, whatever you like to call it, day ahead and real time, right? I assume this too because the majority of the volumes of the energy are being traded in these two stages. So maybe not in UK. Do we have someone from UK? Rodrigo? Since that most of the trades there, they are being traded in bilateral contracts. But I think it's changing there, even in UK. But assume that the majority of the energy are being traded in day-ahead and real-time markets. But of course, we have more trading floors in different countries. For example, in Denmark, there are several intraday markets in between, or in Spain. We have someone from Spain, I think, right? How many intraday markets do you have? I think 3 or 6? 6. Okay, so it's like, I don't know, 8-stage market clearing. But for simplicity, assume that we have only 2. So day-ahead market and the real-time markets, that's what we have. And the time horizon is 1 day, 24 hours. Okay? So in this talk, I'm going to talk about generators, demand response resources, and virtual bidders. Have you heard about virtual bidders before?
You mean virtual power plants?
No, virtual bidders. No. Okay, it's something very important that are adding in the US electricity markets. So now in PJM, in California, in MISO, we have virtual bidders. In California, they call it convergence bidders. Have you heard of it? No? So hopefully sooner or later we will have it also in Europe. Okay, let me talk first about the generators. So in this work, I'm going to talk about two types of the generators in general, the slow generators and fast generators. What is the difference of fast and slow generators? Pardon me? Ramping rates, yeah, of course. What else? The most important things in terms of day-ahead and real time. Sorry, I can't hear. Both can participate in the real-time markets, but slow generators can't do one thing that the fast can do in the real time. What's that? Switching on and off, right? So slow generators, they need to make their decisions about the commitment, on or off, the binary in the day ahead. But then they can't change the commitment, the binary status in the real time because they are slow, right? Like coal units. So they have to decide if they like to be on, I don't know, tomorrow in 11 p.m. or not. They have to decide right now. And then they can't change it later at that time, like 30 minutes before the real-time market clearing, because they are slow. But the fast generators, like gas-fired generators, they can. They can change. They can revisit their unit, the binary status later, even the real-time stage. That's the fundamental difference of the fast and the slow generators. Dirk?
What do you mean by real time? Is it that we have some control
Okay, what?
policies or so?
Yeah, so when we call about the day ahead first, we are talking about the market that we clear 1 day ahead based on our available forecast in day ahead. Our forecast on load, our forecast on wind power production in the next day. And when we talk about the real time, it depends in different countries. The time of the executing of the real time market might be different. For example, here it might be 30 minutes before the time delivery, the actual time. So based on your realized or most updated forecast of wind, of load, in 30 minutes later, you clear the market just to adjust your imbalances. So if you had wrong forecast, inaccurate forecast in the previous markets, in day ahead or intraday markets, so you need to adjust it, and you can do it in the real-time market. So for example, if in the real-time market, 30 minutes before the real, the real time, the time of the delivering electricity, if you realize that, oh, your forecast in wind was wrong, you may have wind excess or wind shortage, then you can adjust your imbalance in the real-time market. Payment? Yeah. Of course, you can make more complicated. You can add more stages, as I said. Let's stick in 2 stages, because the majority of the volumes of the energy are being traded here. But of course, you can add more stages in this study. Both. In both markets, everywhere. We have day-ahead market, we have real-time market. But the real-time market might be called with different terminologies in different places. In Denmark, we call it regulating market. In US, they call it real-time market in most of the places. Maybe the other market, the other country, they are called balancing market. But the scope is the same. But the time of executing that market might be different in country to other country. Okay? But if the unit commitment, the binary status of a generator is 1, then in the day-ahead stage, we have a dispatch for it, like 10 megawatt, 15 megawatt, whatever, and then we can change it in the real time. Even if a generator is slow, but its binary is 1 in the day-ahead, based on some technical constraints like ramping or whatever, that generator may be able to change its dispatch even in the real time and produce a level of regulation under some constraints, right? Above demand response resources, the same story. We can define 2 types of demand response resources as we do in the project: a slow demand response resources and fast. A slow demand response resources you can think of, for example, industrial plants. You can't ask industrial plants, most of them, to change their consumption just right away. You need to tell them, I don't know, in day ahead, some hours in ahead. But if you think of the aggregators who are managing, he has a flexibility portfolio of some houses. The aggregators might be able to provide flexibility, not only in day ahead, but also in the real-time stage. Clear? And virtual bidders, which are the pure financial players. And the next slide, I'll talk about the virtual bidders. Any questions so far? Payman? Yeah, I'll talk. Next slide. Okay. Virtual storage. Yes, Payman, you're right. So they are mostly existing in US markets, but I think the other markets will also hopefully introduce virtual meters and allow. Virtual meters means that right now you, with some, if you show that you have some budget, you can go Kaizo market, for example, and say, okay, I have no physical asset, I'm not aggregator, I have no, power plant or whatever, but I'm arbitrator. And then you can buy or sell whatever. You can behave as a load or generator in the day-ahead stage. And then in the real-time stage, you need to, for example, if in day-ahead, you buy, 10 megawatt, you behave as a load, it means that in the real time, you should behave like a generator. right? So virtual bidder says that day ahead, real time. For example, you decide to behave as a load and buy, for example, 10 megawatt in the day ahead, and then you need to pay at the price of the day ahead market. But then, since you have no physical asset, you have to sell back the 10 megawatt in the real-time market. Let's say this is the load, and this is the generator. Can you sell it 9 megawatt? No. You have no physical asset. You have no storage, nothing, right? It's virtual bidder. Or the other way around. You can behave like a generator. Maybe it's better to use plus for the generator, minus for the demand, right? Or you can do, for example, behave as a generator in the day-ahead market. Then you will be paid based on the day-ahead market price, and then how much you should sell in the real-time market. You should buy, 10 megawatt, exactly the same, or 20, whatever, right, as a load. And then you have to pay at the real-time price. Yep. Mike?
So essentially that's basically pure speculative trading between the ahead and imbalance prices.
Exactly. It's a financial arbitrator or player who is arbitraging between day ahead and real time.
Yep.
It's a temporal arbitrator. It's not like a storage, but it trades, it arbitrage between two market floors. But at the same time, right? So day ahead market, for example, in 5 p.m. and the real time the same for 5 p.m. for the same time period, but different markets. Yep. Yeah, we'll see. The benefit for the virtual bidder is that it can make money.
But what's the benefit for the market?
That's the whole idea of this talk. We will see. Please don't keep cube with yourself.
Normally in financial markets, arbitrators are making money from the differences between assets, same assets.
And the same here.
Yeah,
you are making money with the difference of the prices in different markets. Yes.
Okay. The thing is, there might be in different locations.
Yep.
Those assets. Is how virtual
different locations. No, we are talking about a single virtual trader. So virtual trader should say at which node.
So no
he is
locational
trading.
difference.
Pardon me?
No locational difference.
No. You can go in the system saying that, okay, I like to act as a virtual trader in node 10, right? So you like to buy and sell exactly the same amount, but in different markets. But your location should be the same.
So locational
It's
arbitrage via
locational arbitrator. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. We have 3 questions. Yes.
What kind of limitations?
Please, manage yourself the time. Yep.
What kind of limitation is there to avoid the market
What
power?
time of what?
Limitations to avoid market power.
Yeah. The market power may happen. Here I'm talking about the price taking. I assume that all market players are price taking. But of course, the virtual bidders can behave as a price maker agents. And later in this slide, I'll tell you that what kind of problems now happens, for example, in US, if the virtual bidders started being price maker. I'll tell you about that. But let's now, for now, assume that everything is perfect, and even virtual bidders and also the other generators, they are all price takers. Yep.
How can this virtual bidder guarantee that he will be able to sell it later? Like, how can he imagine
It's
that
their
he
own
will
responsibility.
not be the last?
It's its own responsibility,
Okay.
right?
But does it happen that they don't get the bid and then they have bought something that they can't deliver?
Yeah. So it means that if they have something in the day-ahead market, they should do, for example, if they like to be a generator, so they should offer at the minimum price to make sure that they will be dispatched. Or if in the real-time market they are acting as a load, they should bid at the highest possible price to make sure that they will get power. But of course, virtual bidder should be risk averse. And all these considerations are important for the virtual bidder. But here I'm trying to talk virtual bidders from the system-wise to see if the virtual bidders, if they are perfect, if they are good for the system or not. But yes, of course, in the reality, we should add many more considerations. Are virtual bidders price taker or price maker? Are they risk averse or not? How can they make sure that they will get what they like in the real time or not? Yes, they will be the next questions. Yep, could you please throw the cube? Yes.
Just so that I understand more clearly, is this related to the, like, you have this virtual bid, or like, say for future hedging, you generally have forward markets and futures market. And forwards market is the one in which you provide that I will provide you.
Forward market and future.
It's like this, the
forward and spot, you mean?
No, I'm trying to put this in connection to that so they can understand like the concept of a virtual bid.
Yep.
In which you say the forward market, you will provide this much amount of energy at this much amount of cost, but then there is a secondary player who can actually take your bid and like just keep it as a, he doesn't own an asset,
yep,
but he owns your bid.
That's true. So whatever they decide in the day ahead, then they have no flexibility in the real time. They should exactly do the reverse action, right, in the real time. But one question else that you may ask. So day ahead, well, in day ahead we know, assume that day ahead we have no uncertainty. But in the real time we may have different realizations, different scenarios, right? So can I, as a virtual bidder, can I do differently in different scenarios? Can I say, okay, in scenario 1, if it happens, I would like to sell 9 megawatt. If scenario 2 happens, I would like to sell 10 megawatt? No. So regardless, irrespective of what will happen in real time, my decision in the real time is fixed because I have no physical asset.
So no recourse functions in real time, did you say?
Yeah, somehow. But we will go with the other player that you will see we have recourse decision in the real time. Okay? So far, any question about the concept of virtual bidding? Pardon me?
I heard many.
Oh, yeah, many. Oh, okay, please. Yeah. We should make sure that we will. But I'm available today, tomorrow, and always if you write me by email. Okay. So assume that this is a day ahead. Oops, what happens? Okay, this is the real time. So in our T, if the virtual bidders would like to behave as a generator, this is the quantity the virtual bidders sold, then exactly that amount in the same hour the virtual bidder should buy. Or vice versa. In our T prime, if it acts as a load and it buys something, it should sell it again, exactly that amount in the real time, in the same time. Yep. Do we have agreement on it? Thank you. Okay, today I would like to talk about different market clearing setups. One is stochastic market clearing. There are many, advertisements that, okay, people market, you should start a stochastic market clearing because we have more wind, we have more uncertainties. Go towards the stochastic market clearing. But to be honest, I don't see that in future. I don't think the real markets, in real life, I don't think they will buy the idea of stochastic market clearing because of many disadvantages that we will talk about. Okay? But it doesn't mean that we cannot solve stochastic market clearing. We can use it as an ideal solution, and it could be our benchmark. And then I'll talk about deterministic market, how inefficient it is, but then how can we upgrade deterministic markets to make it better? How to know that we are making it better? By comparing it to our benchmark, which is stochastic market clearing. Is it okay? So let me start with stochastic market clearing, which is our ideal solution. Then we will talk what kind of disadvantages we have in the stochastic one. Is it clear so far? Good. A stochastic market clearing, what does it mean? It means that when we are in the day-ahead stage, instead of having a single deterministic forecast of wind load, whatever, net load, we can generate, based on our available forecast in day-ahead, we can generate some scenarios. And we can assign some probabilities to them. For example, in the day ahead stage, we are here, or maybe here. We are saying, okay, my forecast for tomorrow 10 p.m. for the wind, it could be 10 megawatt, it could be 12, it could be 15 megawatt, whatever, each one with a probability. And of course, the summation of all probabilities as well. Yep, Dirk. You need microphone.
Yes. Would it be possible to show this on a plot where one has the different forecasts and then empirically one looks at what one thought more than 24 hours or whatever before, and then 30 minutes before the gate closure, and then what actually happened in reality?
Yes,
just to see how one would construct these scenarios?
Yeah, that's true. Of course, our forecast in day ahead and what we have forecast in the real time might be different, right? But what are we talking about? What we are talking about here is our forecast is the day ahead, right? Mm-hmm. So in day ahead, well, there are many advances in the forecast tools, but still they are not very good, maybe. So still we can generate some scenarios, right? And not just scenario for a specific hour. We can generate some scenarios for the coming 24 hours. And of course, in the later hours, we have more inaccuracy because they are away from the time, the moment, the right time, the current time. Okay? So you are trying to make a day-ahead decision as a market operator while also good in the real-time stage. It's kind of long-sighted forecast or look ahead decision making or long-sighted decision making. It means that not only when you make your decision for now, you also see the consequences of your decisions right now in the later. What kind of consequences my decisions right now may have in the future. So you try to make your day-ahead decisions while you are seeing, you're anticipating the consequences of your day-ahead decisions in the real time. Is it clear? Yes? Question? No? Okay. Should I explain again?
Please.
Yeah, sure. So in the day-ahead stage, you're saying that maybe in the real-time stage, under scenario 1, maybe my wind power will be 10 megawatt with a probability of, I don't know, 50%. But under scenario 2, maybe my wind power will be, I don't know, 15 megawatt with the probability of 20%. So in the day-ahead stage, you don't know which realization will happen, but you have some probabilities. So your day-ahead decisions, what are your day-ahead decisions? The unit commitment, which generator should be on, which generator should be off. And also the dispatch of the generators in day-ahead. That's those important decisions that you have to make in day-ahead. But those day-ahead decisions should also we should see the consequences of those day-ahead decisions in the real time. Remember, for example, in the slow generators, we can't change their binary status in the real time. So if in the day-ahead, when we are making decisions in day-ahead, if we see what will be the consequence of our decisions right now, later in the real time, maybe in the day-ahead we can make a better decision. Is it clear? Yes? Okay, if not, I can explain more. But if it's deterministic, you can put a paper on it, assume that you don't see this part anymore. In deterministic, you are saying that, well, my forecast for tomorrow is 10 megawatt. That's it. So for 10 megawatt wind forecast, you make your day-ahead decision. You clear the day-ahead. But you don't know if some scenarios else happen, what will be happening in real time. It's kind of myopic market clearing or short-sighted market clearing. Your decision is the best in deterministic if really that forecast, day-ahead forecast, happens in the real time. But if something else happens, maybe you are in suboptimal or very far away from the optimal point if your forecast in day-ahead was very wrong. Yep.
Is there an argument for the wind generators or solar or whatever to not participate at all in the day-ahead market and only sell in the real-time market?
But it's not very optimal for the system, right? First of all, we are talking about Denmark, for example. The 50% of your power is coming from the day-ahead. How can you ignore your wind power, the 50% of your generation at day-ahead?
In Australia, we don't have a day-ahead market.
Yes.
We only have real-time.
Yeah, that's the case of Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah. Is that better for, say, wind operators than, say, in Denmark? If we could somehow sell in both markets, which one's optimum? Is it better having just real-time?
I would say it totally depends on the structure of the market, the wind power penetration. I think it's a very nice research idea to see under what circumstances it's better to have day-ahead real-time or only real-time or day-ahead. You may know Josh Taylor from Toronto. He has a paper. Okay, when we go towards 100% renewables, maybe it's enough to have only one real-time market, no day-ahead market. Right? Yep.
Just a quick comment. Practically, you see what he was just saying already in the markets today. When I talk to the traders, basically they trade a bunch of wind farms, and what they do is they trade very little or a certain share of that production that they had, because they'd rather trade that intraday or even imbalance, because then they have a lower uncertainty on what the actual result will be.
Very
so
nice
they have a lower risk.
That's true, definitely. Yep. The last, okay, 2 questions. Could you please through the queue? Okay, I'm in my fifth slide, but half of the time.
Yes, but
okay,
this purely real-time market would be highly risky for thermal power plants, for example.
Yeah, almost the same observation. Yes.
Yes, for them, like this day ahead might be preferable.
Yep, sure. And even the long-run markets, I don't know, the forward markets or even the bilateral contracts may help. Yep.
Quick. Is the cost of the day-ahead error always assumed to be symmetric, or do they weight it based on some?
Well, in the Denmark, they are not the same. So it's natural to assume that in the real-time market, since the actions are closer, the costs are higher. But again, it depends on the regulations of the market. If I'm not wrong, I heard that in Spain, it's an obligation that the offer price of the generators in day-ahead and real-time should be the same. I don't know if still they have the same that regulation or not, but it totally depends on the market regulation, which market we are talking about, right? But I think in the reality, the actual cost in the real time might be higher, because you need to make an action to be done, I don't know, in 10 minutes, in half an hour. But very good question. Okay, let me move on. Okay, so how can we solve? How can we design stochastic market clearing? It's an optimization problem that we are trying to assume that all the loads are inelastic. So we have no bid price from demand side. It's for simplicity. So instead of maximizing social welfare, we are trying to minimize the system cost, the system's production cost, the total production cost of the generators. So we are minimizing not only the production cost in day-ahead, but also the expected production cost in the real time over different scenarios. If you just clear the deterministic market, you needed to only minimize the system cost in day-ahead. But since it's stochastic, you would like to minimize your cost not only right now, but also the future potential costs. Am I correct? So it's minimizing cost in day-ahead, which is deterministic. Oops, what happens? Yep, plus the expected cost, expected future cost in the real-time level. Payment. Microphone?
I think there is an assumption that cost minimization is equivalent to social welfare.
Yes, I assume that all the demands are inelastic.
When we add demand response to the model, does it cause a conflict?
So cost. So I assume the demand responses, they behave like generators, so they offer the system. So I'm talking about the demand consumption cost, but demand response for providing regulation in the real time, they offer So when I talk about the cost, it's not just about the production cost of generators, also the cost of demand response resources. Thanks, thank you. So stochastic market clearing as an optimization, it's a really, I would say, straightforward optimization problem. These are the two main papers, the first papers. They talked about the stochastic market clearing, and maybe you can find more papers, maybe the papers of Galiana from McGill. Maybe he talked about stochastic market clearing even before 2010. But these are the two, I would say, the rigorous papers. They talked directly about the stochastic market clearing. So we are trying to minimize the cost in DA. DA stands for day ahead. RT stands for real time. So system cost in day ahead plus expected cost in real time, subject to production limits in both day ahead and real time, transmission network limits if we have transmission day ahead and real time, load shedding limits if we have load sheddings in the real time, we can add it here, but at a very, very high cost, and energy balances in the day ahead and real time. And as we know, the dual variables of this balance constraints in day ahead, it provides the day ahead market price, and the energy balance in real time for each scenario, it provides the real time market price under underlying scenario. Is it clear? Okay, it's very easy, right? It's an optimization problem. If you have binaries, it's MILP. If you have, if it's an OPF problem, you don't have binaries, it's LP, right? If we assume that we use a DC OPF, not AC OPF, but yeah, you can do more things. You can make it AC OPF, then convexified, blah, blah. Okay? But if you like, you can do some fun, and you can write it in a different way. How can I make sure that the generators or everyone in the market, or even the virtual bidders, they are happy with this market structure? How can I know that my market design is efficient? Everyone, you are generators, whatever, you send me your bits. I solve this optimization problem. I tell you the market price and your quantities. How can I make sure that you have no incentive to deviate from market clearing outcomes? If you will not deviate, then my market structure is efficient. Otherwise, if there's even one who would like to deviate from the market outcomes, then we have a market failure. Then the market will fail. How can I know? Is the question clear? You sent me your costs, your offers, whatever. I solved this. Oops. I solved this optimization problem, and then I announced that, okay, this is the prices, this is the quantities. How can I know that it's best for the system? And no one would like to deviate. Yep.
One could say that one has found a Nash equilibrium.
But this is optimization. It's not Nash equilibrium. It's not an equilibrium problem.
No, but if you look at the different players and solve it for them and make a sensitivity analysis on
okay, that's almost correct. Yep. So let me reformulate your answer. Can I reformulate this optimization problem as another structure in which everyone in the market, they are trying to maximize its own profit? Or if it's a load, they are minimize their own cost. Is it possible or not?
Marginal cost bidding?
Yep. No, I would like to make sure that everyone is happy with this structure. Everyone is trying to maximize their profit. As a generator, maybe I don't care about that. The market minimizes the system cost. As a generator, I like to maximize my profit or my expected profit. So how to make sure that my objective function as profit maximization is aligned with this market, which tries to minimize system cost? Pardon me? No, we are talking about the price-taking market setup. Everyone offers at its true marginal cost. So thank you and welcome to the world of equilibrium. So this is something that you haven't heard yet in the summer school, so you will hear it here. And I'm pretty sure Mariam will talk more about equilibrium, I think. Am I right, Mariam? Yes. Okay, cool. So, do you know what equilibrium is? Yes, equilibrium. No. Mathematical definition. If you have, yeah, Dirk, microphone. I'm going to get worried about the time as well. Yep. Could you please throw?
Who wants?
Dirk? Wow.
You can have generally stable and unstable equilibria.
I'm talking about the fundamental definition of equilibrium. What does it mean from a mathematical perspective? Yes, equilibrium can be stable or unstable, whatever.
It means that the first derivative is zero.
I'm talking what's the difference of optimization and equilibrium?
If a player deviates, they lose.
Pardon me?
If a single player deviates, they're worse off.
Okay, in equilibrium.
Both sides of the equation are the same?
Okay, I'm happy because you will learn something new in the summer school, so it's really good. So in equilibrium problem, you don't need necessarily to have one optimization problem. It's a collection of optimization problems. So David has its own optimization, Derek has its own optimization, Rodrigo has its own optimization, but they are not independent. We need to solve all these optimization problems together. Why? Because David is a generator, maximize its own profit, the same Rodrigo, the same Dirk, while all of them, they are trying to supply the all demands. So they have one or more common constraints. So each of you are trying to maximize your own profit by solving your own optimization, but at the same time, you have a shared constraint, at least one shared constraint. So we need to all solve all those optimizations plus the sharing constraints all together. Is it clear? So, still in the stochastic setup, assume that each conventional generator, either slow, fast, wind, whatever, they are trying to maximize its own expected profit. Since that we assume that they are price taker, assume that they exactly know, the market prices are given for them. I'll tell about that. Just subject to their own constraints. The production constraint of the generator, the ramping constraint, any constraint related to that generator. You can have the same story for wind generator. You can write an optimization profit even for grid operator who is doing special arbitrator. He tries to transfer power from one node to other node. So if there is congestion, then we have different prices. So then it means that the grid operator can maximize the grid congestion rent. We can talk about it if you like later. If you have load, you can minimize your cost. If it's inelastic, it can try to minimize its expected shedding cost. For all of them, the market price, in each optimization problem, the market price is given. While all the optimization are linked by sharing constraint, which are energy power balance. All generators, at the same time, they should supply demand, either in day ahead or in real time, or both. So for the whole equilibrium problem, the market prices are variables. But for each optimization problem, the market prices are given, are parameters. Okay? This is an equilibrium problem. If I solve this, what's the good point? If I have a solution for this, what's the good point? Pardon me? Everyone is happy. If I have a solution, and we call the solution, Dirk, you said, Nash equilibrium, it means that no one would like to deviate from the outcomes of the equilibrium. Then the good thing is that everyone is happy, right? How to solve this equilibrium problem? Can you write in Python or, I don't know, Julia or GAMS or Mosaic, whatever? Okay, I have, instead of one optimization, I have 4 optimizations with sharing constraint. Solve it to me. Is it possible? Is it? Yeah. So should I leave it as it is? There is no way to solve this problem? Pardon me? No, there is no solver. Ah, yes, thank you. What does it mean?
You have certain
Unit micro, it's an important answer.
You can represent an optimization problem.
Which optimization problem? For example, this one?
All of them.
Yeah.
And as constraints, and then the optimal...
Conditions, I would say, yeah.
Yeah. And
which conditions?
Optimality conditions.
Optimality conditions. How can I get the optimality conditions? KKTs, Tucker. It was one of the requirements of the summer school. I hope you know how to drive the KKTs, huh? So you can replace each, since that we assume that each optimization problem is convex, so it's KKTs, it's really, it's optimality conditions. So if I replace this optimization by its KKTs, this optimization by KKTs, this optimization by KKTs, and this is itself a constraint, then if I gather all the KKTs together, then I have a big set of conditions, but no objective function. Huh? It's a set of system of equations. Can I solve it?
Yes.
Yes. What is the type of that problem? Is it a linear problem?
Complementarity?
Yeah, it's just one word of that long word.
MCP?
MCP? It stands for?
Mixed complementarity problems.
Mixed complementarity program or problem. If you replace each one by its KKTs, then you will end up to a set of conditions, no objective function. So you need to solve that problem. When can I solve that problem? When I can know that there is a solution for that problem in terms of number of variables and conditions. It's a set of system of equations. Huh? If the number of variables and constraints, if those numbers are the same, then we call the system as a square. We can get the solution. If it's not a square, non-square, if the number of variables more than the number of constraints, we may have solution, and even we may have multiple solutions. But if the number of constraints more than the number of variables, then we have no solution. The good news. Okay, no, let me not announce the good news yet. Do you recommend the system operator, either in a stochastic setup or deterministic? Do you ask them to solve this problem or this optimization problem? You say, okay, this is good for the system, but this is good for everyone. No one would like to deviate from this, but this is harder problem to solve. But this is easier problem to solve. I'm the market operator. Which one do you recommend me to solve the problem? Even assume that there is no scenarios, only one scenario in the real time. Assume it's deterministic even.
As an operator, I suggest to an operator MCP.
But it's hard problem to solve. But you suggest operator, so you would like to go North Pole saying that, okay, from tomorrow solve MCP. Any other observation? Microphone? Yep, Q. Dirk?
I would stick with the social optimum, because if I'm the TSO, then anyway it's my job to...
and then you will force generators to not deviate?
It may be, they
it's
may
a
be...
free market.
They may be equivalent, no?
Yeah.
It would be nice if you can...
We are getting, yeah. Thank you. Good news. This problem is equivalent to this problem. These two problems are not different. So if you solve this problem, indeed you are solving this problem. But this is optimization, this is equilibrium, but they are equivalent. How can I know they are equivalent?
Same optimal solution?
Okay, so you ask me to suggest to check for 10,000 samples and to see if every time I get the same solutions? It may work, but it's not a very decent job. Yeah?
Try to determine the cost functions for each of them, which is there, and then probably add that to the social optimum.
No, I need a real good mathematical proof to show that they are equivalent.
Could you maybe try to see this problem as a problem that is derived from the dual of the first problem?
Dual? But the dual of this optimization is optimization, it's not equilibrium.
No, yes, but then if you formalize this into a maximization problem, and then maybe you can break it down into different maximization problems.
You are making the life a bit complex. Hey, Katie, Juan, thank you. Derive the KKTs of this. Derive the KKTs of this. Compare them. If they are identical, they are equivalent. That's it. End of story. If you have two set of equations, optimization equilibrium, or two equilibrium, or two optimization, whatever, derive the KKTs, derive the KKTs. Compare. If they are equivalent, sorry, if the KKTs are equal, then those problems are equivalent. Okay? Okay. I don't know which project is this, the number, I want to, I don't know, whatever. But one of the steps is that prove they are equivalent. Then, as you liked, you can solve the problem of this. You can solve the problem for this numerically. Then you will hopefully end up to the same solution. But how to solve this problem as an MCP? How to solve this problem as an LP problem? Even if you like, Pierre described something about ADMM. Unfortunately, this year we didn't cover the decomposition techniques. I did it last year. So ADMM is one of the decomposition techniques. The good thing is that if you relax this constraint, then those optimization problems are totally independent. So David can solve its own problem separately than from Dirk, than from Rodrigo. If we relax this. But then over the iterations, we need to restore, we need to force the shared constraint. It's what ADMM is doing. Right? So you relax the sharing constraint, then over the iterations, you try to restore your sharing constraint. That's the other way to solve equilibrium problem without need to drive in KKTs. So in that project, you can solve either by MCP or by ADMM. So ADMM is not very hard thing, it's very easy. So in that project, you can see the instructions of how we can, how one can implement ADMM. Okay? I need a lot of things to say, so I have to be a bit fast. Good. So these two stochastic forms, optimization and equilibrium, they are equivalent because they end up to the same KKTs. But we love that equivalency because we conclude that if we solve optimization problem, no one will deviate because it's equivalent to equilibrium problem. Is it clear? So this is why we love equilibrium problem, just to show the properties of the market, not to ask the market player to solve that problem, but just to derive the properties, to show the properties of the market design. Is it clear? So since this is a square system, the number of variables and constraints that you can see, it's a square system, the number of variables and constraints, they are equal, so it's a single solution we will have, and day-ahead price is equal to expected real-time price. So I would like to move on. So far, we talked about one model, a stochastic market clearing. You are in day-ahead, you generate some scenarios, and then you make optimal day-ahead decisions, while also you anticipate the consequences of day-ahead decisions in the real time. So in theory, if your scenarios are good enough, so you will end up to the least expected system cost, because you know what will happen in the future over the scenarios. It's ideal solution. Clear? Okay. So it was our stochastic program, stochastic market clearing. But if you go Nord Pool or whatever else, you may have some problems selling this idea. Bye. Do you like a stochastic market clearing? What's the challenge? Or what are the challenges? Dirk.
It scales.
Computational issues, true.
Yeah.
But what you can do, instead of 1,000 scenarios, you can end up 2 scenarios. 2 scenarios is better than 1 scenario. But yes, if you have many scenarios, you have computational issues. One. Payment. How to derive probabilities? It's really hard. Is it 50-50? Is it 60-40? How can I know? While those probabilities are very effective. They change the solution. Probability, yeah. And this is why we went through robust optimization. But let's stick to stochastic program. Yeah, deriving the probabilities are hard. I mean, it's really hard task. What else? A bit think about market-wise, not very computational-wise. Is it transparent or not? Is it transparent for market players to know which scenarios market player would like to derive? It reduces the transparency. Do you agree? It means that all of us should agree on the set of scenarios. It's really hard. It makes the system a bit intransparent. But one can argue, no. But there is also one big problem. Also, it's a large burden for market operator how to derive those scenarios, how to derive the probabilities. But one else. Okay, just to save the time, I need to tell you the main challenge myself. So, in deterministic, you mentioned the pair. We have the merit order in the day ahead. It means that in the day ahead, if it's the deterministic, so first we have the most cheapest generator, then the second cheapest generator, and blah, blah, blah. And for example, here is my demand, or whatever. So the price is here. This is the market price, right? Your demand could be flat, or no, you may have a non-increasing demand curve or whatever. But the price is here. You have merit order. The merit order is preserved. So what does it mean? So the market price is here. So all generators dispatched will be paid in this price. What would be their profit? Are their profit will be negative, non-negative, positive?
It changes.
I'm talking for these three generators who dispatched. This is their marginal cost, or what they offered, but they will be paid at this price. What would be their profit? Always non-negative. Let's say always non-negative.
The difference between the marginal price, market price?
Yes.
And the marginal
Yeah, the production of the generator I times the market price in the day ahead minus its production cost. If we have the merit order, this is always non-negative for all generators. We love this property. We call it cost recovery. For market operator, it's very important to have a market design ensuring cost recovery. There are very important four properties. There's no time to describe them. Cost recovery, revenue adequacy, efficiency, and incentive compatibility. We love to have those four in the market, but unfortunately in economy there is a theory called impossibility theory. We can't have all of four of them at the same time. So as a market operator, we should decide which of those four are more important for us. And cost recovery is one of them. We can't invite the generators to participate in the market while we cannot ensure their cost recovery. We can't say, for example, David, okay, come to my market, but maybe your profit will be negative. We can't tell it. Okay? But the stochastic market clearing destroys merit order. So our merit order in the stochastic, you can run it yourself. You will see in one of the projects. Maybe you will see that this is dispatched. This is dispatched. This guy is not dispatched. But this guy, this generator is dispatched. So this is dispatched, this is dispatched, this is not dispatched, this is dispatched. Why? Because this guy will provide flexibility, upregulation in the real time. So we need it in day ahead to have it. So though this is cheapest, but it's not dispatched in day ahead. But the bad thing is that the market price in day ahead will not be here. It will be somewhere here. It means that we dispatch expensive generator in day ahead while we will pay that generator at a lower price in day ahead. So stochastic market clearing violates the cost recovery in day ahead. In expectation in day ahead and real time, we have cost recovery in expectation. But, well, that's based on the scenarios that we don't know if they will happen or not. We really would like to have cost recovery in day ahead. Okay? So this is the biggest problem, I believe, of the stochastic market clearing, among others. 2 questions, please, only. Yep. Yep, David?
I understand clearly. This condition that a generator with higher marginal cost will be dispatched, but the price will be set based on some prior one, happens strictly because you take into account clearing of the real-time market, right?
Yes, good observation. Why the price is here, not here? What do you think? It's a very good question. That's your question, right?
Yes.
Why the price, dispatch day ahead price is not here, it's here. If you derive the dual variable, you will see that, oh my God, the day ahead price is not the same as the offer price of the most expensive generator dispatched, but it's something, it could be something lower than that. Why? And you said the answer. Pardon me?
The expected value is lower because it's stochastic.
Because it's stochastic, true.
Yes, so it's because you take into account the real-time market, which
Yes.
is like an expectancy of the scenario.
That's totally true. The dual variable is the sensitivity of the objective function with respect to any distribution in that constraint, right? It's a sensitivity. So your dual variable in the real time, your dual variable for the power balance in day ahead is not the sensitivity of only cost in day ahead. It's the cost in day ahead plus cost in the real time, expected cost in real time, with respect to any perturbation in the day ahead power balance. So since your most expensive generator may provide a down regulation in the real time, it means that that generator should pay to the system. So the total system cost might be lower. So then you will end up to a sensitivity or dual variable lower than because your objective function is not the cost only in day ahead, also the cost in the real time. Yep. Did I answer your question? Yes. We can argue more in the break, in the lunchtime.
So one could argue that this is actually, once again, what's really happening in reality today in the market, because we see that, especially in the UK, for example, there's some generators that are underbidding, so bidding under marginal costs, so they can access the regulation market where they expect to make more profit. So if I am a generator and I'm getting some compensation in day ahead, even though that doesn't cover marginal cost, but that allows me to participate in the next market.
This here is not necessarily the marginal cost, it's the offer price. So based on the offer price, if you're talking about underbidding or overbidding, whatever, we don't care. We check the cost recovery based on the offer price to the market. So if, for example, you offer to the market at $10 per megawatt, but the market price is 9, then we have problem. But we don't check, okay, if the true marginal cost, it was 10 or whatever. We check the cost recovery based on the offer price. But it may happen in US if we neglect the unit commitment constraints, then we neglect the startup costs. Then we need to uplift pricing, which is a different story than here. I would like to continue. Sorry, I have just 15 minutes, but a lot of things to say. So, stochastic market clearing, nice, ideal solution, but it's not very practical. We need to augment our deterministic model. Deterministic model, which is very simple. In day ahead, we have a deterministic wind forecast, just deterministic. We say, yeah, it's 10 megawatt is my wind forecast with a probability of 1. It's deterministic. Then we make our day ahead decisions, our day ahead decisions, are fixed. Then in real-time stage, if the wind realization is something different, then we need to run the real-time market based on the real realization. It's kind of short-sighted market clearing, but it's very simple. It's a deterministic LP problem. It preserves the merit order. We have no cost recovery problem, whatever. But if our forecast in day ahead was very wrong, then in real time we have problem. We need maybe more very expensive balancing actions. Is it clear? So it's a two-stage, two different optimization problems. First in day ahead, just we minimize the system cost in day ahead based on what forecast we have. We fix the day ahead decisions. Then in real time, we see maybe this scenario happens, maybe the other scenario happens. So based on the real realization of the wind, or the most updated wind forecast in the real time, we need to clear real-time market and find the balancing actions, again at the minimum system cost. It's deterministic, right? But it's very obvious, I think, that if in day-ahead stage our forecast was very wrong, then the total system cost, the cost in day-ahead plus cost in real time, might be so high. Clear? Good. So, question. We love this structure, but we like to improve it. When I say improve it, we like to reduce the cost in day-ahead plus the cost in real time. We like to keep these two markets separate. We like to solve the day-ahead market deterministically, but at the same time, we like to reduce the total system cost. And to get it closer, the system cost in the stochastic setup, which is our benchmark. So is the question clear, or research question clear? Okay, how can we do? What can go and advise to system operator or market operator? Let's not suggest him to change your market design totally and make it stochastic. But how can we? Yes, we can increase the flexibility, blah, blah, blah. But what kind of market actions we can do? So the question is clear, right? Oh, just 10 minutes. Do you remember virtual bidding, or you forgot it? Okay. This is the most important statement of mine in this talk. If you didn't follow my old statements previous, okay. But this is the most important one. Instead of making the market stochastic, allow stochastic decision makers to participate in the market. What does it mean? Like virtual bidders, allow them to come to the market and participate in the market, and allow them, let them to decide their own dispatch themselves outside the market. Outside the market. What does it mean? For example, we can allow stochastic decision makers, or decision makers like this virtual bidding guy. He can say, okay, in day-ahead, I would like to buy 10 megawatt. In the real time, minus 10 megawatt. This is the decisions of virtual bidding. It's not the outcomes of the market clearing. So we see the virtual bidding decisions as a parameters, as fixed, but they will be paid, or they pay, at the market clearing price. So we allow some participants, for example, in this case, virtual bidders, to fix their own quantity. They can decide about their own quantity outside the market themselves. So as a market operator, we see them as a fixed quantity, but then for the rest of the participants, based on the rest of them, we clear the market, we drive the price, market price. So then the guy who set its own quantity should be paid, or pay, based on the market price. Is it clear? Let me give you an example. Let me give my example. Maybe this is clarifying, and then I'll answer the questions. Assume that this participant is not virtual bidder, is a generator, that we will call it self-scheduler. Okay. Assume that I have 3 generators, G1, G2, G3, and they have to participate in the market. They offer to the market to meet a load of 100 megawatt, right? So here G1, G2, G3, both they participate in the market, they offer. None of them are self-scheduler. None of them are stochastic decision maker. But this is what is happening in CAISO, in California. For example, assume G1 is self-scheduler. So G1 loves to make its own quantity decision itself outside the market. As a market operator, let's allow him to do that. Let's assume G1 would like to produce 20 megawatt by solving its own problem. G1 tries to maximize its own profit. It has some forecast on price, whatever. So it decides to fix its quantity, its production, to 20 megawatt. This is done outside the market. So then, as a market operator, I will clear a market, not including G1 anymore, just based on G2 and G3. And G2 and G3's production should be how much? 100 or not? 80. Thank you. So this is my market clearing problem if I allow someone to do self-schedule. Is it clear?
But those players know each other, right?
No. It's market operator. But at what price I will pay to this guy? Market price. So now we can derive the market price, lambda, and at this price, this guy will be paid. It's very complicated, huh? So G2 makes its own decision outside the market. So for the rest of generators and demand, we clear the market, we derive the market price, and we pay the self-schedulers or virtual bidders, whatever, at the price of the market. So this guy can fix its own quantity, but eventually will be paid by the market price. We call it a stochastic decision maker or decentralized market, whatever. Let me call it self-scheduler. Is it okay to continue by 10 minutes? Yeah. That's 12:40, sorry. Yeah, so it means that I have quarter 15 minutes. Sorry for that. But yeah, 2 questions only, please. Yep.
One thing I missed is the demand where you clear, that you used to clear the market in under this assumption where you have a self-scheduler. Is that the total demand or is that discounted by the negative of the self-scheduler?
Yeah, this is a negative, right? My total demand is 100. Yeah. So a guy outside the market decides to supply 20 megawatt of it. So the 20 megawatt of the demand will be supplied. I need to clear the market just to supply the rest of demand.
Essentially, the self-scheduler is just a negative inelastic demand.
Okay, whatever you like to call it, yes. Yep.
System operator is deciding how much they should produce.
No.
No, they are deciding.
Yes, this is why we call it self-scheduler.
Okay, but in the case of the market clearing, system operator will tell how much they should.
Repeat, sorry. For the others, for non-self-schedulers. Yes, if G1 is self-scheduler, it decides 20 megawatt. It's fixed. Who decides this? G1 itself. But the production of G2 and G3 will be determined in the market by the market operator.
Market operator.
Yes, so market operator will receive the offers from G2, G3, and will say, okay. Then the market operator solves LP problem and will say, okay, G2, you need to solve 40 megawatt. GT, you need to solve, sorry, you need to produce 40 megawatt.
Okay, one step further question. Then how could we define the Nash-Krull equilibrium here? Because we are not going to compete with.
I'm not talking about price makers. No corner players here so far. If you would like to make it complicated, you can do. Everyone is price taker. It's the assumption. Why G1 may love to do self-schedule rather than going to the market? Did you get the question? I'm the G2. I have 2 options. Or G1, I have 2 options. Either I can go to the market, I can offer in the market, or I can act as a self-scheduler. I can decide my own quantity. So as a generator, I have 2 options. Going to the market or to acting as a self-scheduler. Why might be there is motivation for G1 to do self-scheduling rather than going to the market? Are you asking questions or you are answering my question? Answering, okay, yeah, Payman?
Unless you know that the prices in the real-time market will be higher?
Okay, let's a bit rephrase that, but it's correct. Thank you, Alvaro. If G1 has a better information about the wind uncertainty or whatever than the market operator, if G1 realizes that by stochastic optimization or whatever, it can gain higher profit, it has a better information than the market operator or the other generators, then it may like to do self-scheduling.
no information asymmetry, then G1 just made better.
G1 hides its own information from the others. Just G1 says 20 megawatt is my decision. That's it. No one knows what G1 knows. Okay? Very good. So here the virtual bidder is my self-scheduler, but it has no physical asset. So virtual bidder tries to maximize its own profit. Some assumption to make the life easy. We assume that the virtual bidder, it's perfect. What does it mean? It's price taker. It doesn't care about the risk. And it exactly knows the day-ahead price and the distribution of the real-time price over different scenarios that may happen. It's an assumption. Perfect virtual bidder. Right? And then for the given prices, this virtual bidder decides its day-ahead and real-time decisions, like 10 minus 10. Right? We'd like to see how perfect virtual bidder can help the system operator or the market design. Clear? So we have a big assumption. It's a strong assumption. But yeah, let's do it. Let's see what happens. So this guy, virtual bidder, at the location you said, it tries to maximize its profit. So we have day-ahead market clearing, deterministic real-time market clearing for each scenario. There is, so when the day-ahead market is clearing, we have no information about the scenarios that may happen in real time. But since each of them are LPs, we can get the prices. And we assume that the virtual bidder knows these prices. It's an assumption. And then the virtual bidder sets its own quantities in day-ahead and real time. How can I solve this problem all at the same time? This optimization receives some information from here and then sends some information to the others. The dual variables here are given here. The quantities here, which are variables, are parameters here. Is it clear? How can I solve this problem?
Complementary?
It's an equilibrium problem. It is. So before talking about equilibrium, so this is deterministic problem, deterministic problem. Market operator solves deterministic problem, but virtual bidder, which is not market operator, it solves a stochastic problem. It tries to maximize its expected profit, not profit. How can I solve this problem? This is an equilibrium. Why equilibrium? Because these are three different optimizations, but linked to each other. Dual variables of these two are parameters here. The variables of here are parameters here. But everything are variables in the whole equilibrium context. Is it clear? How can I solve it? Yep. KKTs, 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 all together, MCP. We use MCP solver like PAS in GAMS or Pythonizing. Clear? So we did some assumptions, right? But this is not optimization problem. It's an equilibrium. And even you can go one step more. Not only the virtual bidders, but also the self-schedulers, the G1 guy, can maximize its own expected profit. And again, let's assume that this self-scheduler is perfect. It means that it's price taker, it's risk neutral, and this self-scheduler generator exactly knows the day-ahead price and the distribution of real-time prices in different scenarios. Perfect. And then this is the self-scheduling generator who determines its quantities in day-ahead and real-time. Then the market operator sees this quantity as parameter. This is the self-scheduler who sets its own schedule. But this guy eventually will be paid based on day-ahead and real-time market prices. Again, the optimizations of market operator, they are deterministic. We don't ask market operator to solve a stochastic problem. What we do, we allow someone to fix their quantities in the market. And we hope that they are solving a stochastic problem. Yeah? So it's kind of bypassing. So instead of asking market to do the stochastic market clearing, just we allow someone, if they have a better information than us, we allow them to bring information to make their own decisions based on the better information than they have than us. And then they fix their quantities. And we hope that the quantities of these guys, because they are perfect, we assume, perfect players, their decisions are close to the decisions of them if we solved a stochastic market clearing. Is it clear? Okay, let me go a bit faster. I have only 7 minutes. So again, it's equilibrium problem, and eventually we should solve MCP problem, or you can use ADMM. This is what Anna is doing right now. Anna is there. Yep. So, yeah, you may have different approaches to solve an equilibrium problem. It's really fun if you love working with optimization. I think it's equilibrium is really nice things to work on. So, we derived this KKTs. We use the unit commitment, so our optimizations originally are binaries, are mixed integer. Then we relax the binaries between 0 and 1. We can argue that is it better to totally ignore binaries or have the binaries but relax them. I and my colleagues, Ben Hobbs, we believe that it's better to have binaries and then relax it. It brings less approximation than totally ignoring the binaries. But it's a discussion that we can do it later. It's not something related to the idea of virtual bidding and this kind of things. But you can read this report, how we can relax the unit commitment constraints, but in a tight way. Example? Do you have questions so far? Is it clear, the whole idea? Very good. It's a very, very simple case, single node, single hour, just to see what happens. Then I'll show you a bigger case study. So 3 generators, G1, G2, G3. 2 of them are slow. 1 is fast. Okay, and you can see the ramp, Pmax, marginal cost, startup cost, whatever. We assume that in day ahead our forecast is 250 for wind. But in real time, we have 2 extreme scenarios. It's a bit tailored case. Just, we have extreme cases just to show how virtual bidders may work. So under different scenarios, the wind production might be 0 or 500, 2 extreme scenarios with the same probabilities. And load is inelastic and 100 megawatt. Okay? If we solve a stochastic market clearing, either as an optimization or as an equilibrium, they are equivalent. You will see that the total system cost, which is the cost in day ahead plus expected cost in the real time under 2 scenarios we have, the system cost is $47,500 US. Okay? We see it as ideal solution. It means that we decide day ahead decisions while we see what may happen in the real time. Okay? You can read it later about the descriptions, what's the schedule of different generators and day ahead. If we have deterministic case, deterministic sequential, first day ahead, we only see that the wind forecast is 250. We don't know what will happen in real time. Then we make the decisions, day ahead decisions. We dispatch the wind as 250 megawatt, and then in real time we realize, oh my God, the wind under scenario 1 is 0. The wind production under scenario 2 is 500. Then we need balancing actions, right? It's a bit inefficient. It's totally deterministic sequential. In day ahead, we don't know the scenarios in the real time, what scenarios that may happen. And then you see that the system cost increased by 9,000. It's 56,000 now. It's clear? We can read, okay? So I call this 9,000 as the cost of wind uncertainty in terms of the system cost. So if I add flexibility to the system, and if this cost is reduced, the reduction will be called as monetized value of flexible resource. The value in terms of the social value, I will call it. social monetized value. Now, let me add, so still it's model 2, deterministic sequential, but let's have one virtual bidder. It's a single node, so we have no network here. So we have a virtual bidder. This virtual bidder is perfect. In day ahead, unlike the market operator, the virtual bidder knows what may happen in the real time. Though the virtual bidder is profit maximizer, but at the same time, it brings some information to the market. And as you see, the system cost reduced by 1,500. But it's not as efficient as the stochastic one, but it improved the efficiency of the system, of the market design. So we kept the deterministic nature of the market, just we allowed someone to come and enter the market, and the total system cost is reduced. And very extreme case, it may not happen always. It's very subject to the case, so this is a very extreme case. If you allow G2 to do self-schedule, while it has a perfect information, you will see though the market clears the market deterministically, but the system cost now is reduced, and it's exactly the same as the ideal one. But as I told, it may not happen always. So it happened in this case, in this extreme case. So the last 1 minute. So this is a bigger case. In the paper, I'll show you, I'll introduce. You can find more information about the case. So it's IEEE 24, no, 24 hours. I don't know how many lines, loads you can see in the paper. So, but this is nice, maybe. So the black histograms are the stochastic dispatch of one sample slow slot generator in different hours. So you'll see that in hour 10, its dispatch is here, then here, then here. It's a smooth production, a smooth increase of the production. So the startup cost is not very significant if we clear the market stochastically. So the dispatch of G6, this generator is, it's increasing the production over the time smoothly. But if we solve the problem sequentially and deterministically, while we have virtual trading, virtual bidding, but G6 goes to the market, not self-schedules, then you see this poor generator is dispatched at hour 11 here, at hour 12 here, at hour 13 here, like something like this. So it incurs a high startup cost and shutdown cost. Right? It's a final dispatch in the real time. The real production. But if we allow this generator, who is dispatched in the market in a very inefficient way, if we allow G6 to do self-schedule, while we assume that that generator has a perfect information about the market and what will happen in the real time, it will not be as good as this one, but it's better than the sequential one. So then at hour 10 is here, at hour 11 is here, and then at hour 12 is here. It's not as good as this one. It's not the same as this one, but still, it will not be dispatched something like this, increasing, decreasing, increasing. Yeah, Alvaro? Do you need cube? Do you have the cube? Okay.
Case.
Yeah, stochastic one.
That is, yeah, the stochastic one where he goes like totally
here
up. We see that there is like a big difference.
Yeah, there's a big difference.
Yeah, so in that case,
the system cost is not the same in those two systems. So as I said, this sequential and stochastic still may end up different system cost. So the sequential deterministic, even with virtual bidding and self-schedulers, may be still inefficient, but not as efficient as the deterministic one without virtual bidding, without self-scheduling.
Yeah, but for example, in this case, when you have this virtual trading, for example. If you compare the virtual trading and him self-scheduling, you see that there are like differences in the generation side. So, for example, that would mean that his cost is different, right? His cost of operation. So that means that if he has higher cost of operation for not knowing, then the other one would reap the benefit, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. So the G6 can can reduce its production cost by having less startup cost or whatever, but cannot find or determine the best dispatch that it could have under the stochastic market clearing. So we are not necessarily end up to the best solution that we could get in the stochastic one.
Yeah, but this would incentivize either way in comparison with the traditional way, the deterministic one.
So unfortunately here I didn't bring you the profit of G6 under the 3-6 systems, but as far as I remember, here in this case, even the generator, it loses some money. The profit is even negative. But here, under the sequential, when G6 self-schedules, its profits will be something a bit positive. Though here, its profit under the stochastic one is the best, is the highest. So just it tries to reduce its loss.
So this model incentivizes the generators to use the stochastic approach.
The stochastic in this case is the best, but but we talked what kind of disadvantages the stochastic market clearing brings. Okay? So conclusions, so we had optimization, equilibrium, and this kind of things, but the main message, we don't suggest the system operators to rush to embrace the stochastic market clearing, but what we suggest is that maybe if we allow a subset of the market parties to come with their own schedules, if we think that they have better information than us, maybe it helps the system operator clear the market in a more efficient way. That's the main message. And right now, Anna and Christos, Anna is there. They are trying to extend this idea when we have natural gas and electricity markets, and to see, okay, not only virtual bidders, self-schedulers may help to reduce the system cost, but maybe even they increase the coordination between electricity and natural gas or district heating systems if they have better information into 2 markets or the other 3 markets. So you can talk with Anna and Christos about this. Future works. Virtual bidders are not necessarily perfect. They might be imperfect. They might have imperfect knowledge. How to model asymmetric equilibrium in terms of the information. If the information of G1 is different than the G2, if they believe in different scenarios, how to model it. Should we end up to Bayesian game or not? What happens if self-scheduler or virtual bidders are strategic? Should we model by Corno or, I don't know, Bertrand or supply function game or whatever? Or what happens if they are risk averse? How to model the risk aversion of the self-schedulers and risk. And then, under these 2 setups, I mean, as a generator, what's your best decision? To go to the market or to do self-schedule? So it's a really, I think, important questions that we need to address it. There is a lack of research, I think, in this area. So this is the 2 papers that you can look at to get more information. And thank you so much for being here. And I'll be available the whole day, today, tomorrow. So let's close the session right now to go to lunch. But we can talk offline if you have more questions. Thank you so much.